Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Tuesday Training. I hope you're having a fantastic week. As always,
we are live from Austin, Texas, right here at Insurance Syndicate headquarters. And man, we have a great show for you.
Good morning. What is going on? Why the heck does it have me out there? Hope you guys are doing all right. Why is that making sound? Let's fix all this. We got some weird feedback again. Strange things always happening here in the world of technology, and I am no master of it. Hope you guys are having a great Tuesday, man. We got some good news stuff in the Medicare world to go over with you guys. One thing that's great about Medicare is that it never stops changing. Right? What do they say? The only constant in the Medicare world is change. Every year it has changes, and we are certainly seeing no shortage of changes in these last couple of years. And definitely now, like, we got new administration, we have technology like crazy with AI and getting systems involved. We're going to talk some about that today. So I've got some news updates for you guys that you're going to be excited about, maybe nervous about, and maybe just interesting. But it'll definitely give you some ideas of some of the things that are coming down the pipe for us here in the Medicare world. There was a big press conference yesterday talking about prior authorizations. We are going to get into a good deal of that today, and I've got a handful of other announcements that I want to go over. Before we jump into that, as always, big shout out to my guys over at DFYCRM for sponsoring the show and helping make this thing possible. Definitely one of the best go high level platforms out there if you're in the insurance industry. It's the one I use. And the main reason I use it, it's got all the things. I've talked about this before. It's got everything that you need in a CRM. The only thing it doesn't have is commission payments, but everything else is absolutely in there for you. So moving off at the top of the hour, this is definitely something that I'm pretty sure you guys have probably already heard about. It's been on the interwebs. Just happened last week. I announced it, I don't know, maybe it was Friday or something like that, Thursday night. In the Insurance Syndicate group. But if you're an agent out there working in the Medicare Advantage world, you are getting a significant raise next year in regards to commissions. And I think for some people, this might come as confusing news. I think for some, it probably comes as maybe hopeful news or kind of an understanding that things are moving in a good direction for us. There's been a lot of folks concerned about the direction of the Medicare space because we have a lot of carriers that have been cutting commissions. We talked a little bit about that. I think it was last week or the week before in regards to United Healthcare reducing comp on a lot of their PPO, or just eliminating comp, I should say, on a lot of their PPO plans. We got WellCare that pulled all the PDP commissions. A lot of other carriers have followed in similar suit on the PDP commission. So I think a lot of folks have been thinking, wow, man, maybe getting into the Medicare space is not good, or maybe the time in the Medicare space is coming to an end because we're seeing what appears to be a trend with carriers dropping commissions on us. And I told you last week that is at least not my belief, that they are just trying to reduce commissions or eliminate commissions in an effort to stick it to the agent. They're trying to maintain a business that's profitable so that they continue to be around and serve people. And unfortunately, that is one of the things. My buddy Justin Brock gave a really good analogy on that. He said, imagine if you're General Motors, right? And every time that you sold a car, you pressed your salespeople to sell some type of extended service, maintenance, or warranty agreement, which we already know they do. And let's say General Motors figured out that, hey, every time someone sells the 5-year extended warranty, when we look at it, we're actually losing money on that. Like when we look at it, we're a net negative on selling that. It actually costs us money when our salespeople sell those packages. So what would they do? They would just simply de-incentivize the agents from selling them. They probably won't get rid of them, but they'll get rid of the incentive. So same kind of thing that's going on here with United Healthcare and some of these other carriers. They're just disincentivizing you to write those products because it is unprofitable for them. And again, that's why I feel like for some people this is good news, because they're seeing like, okay, this space isn't going away. Right? If you were at Medicarians, you would have heard numerous executives tell you that they're very, very bullish on the Medicare space and including the Medicare Advantage world. And so I think that when we see these commission increase that we're getting, that might relieve some of the pressure or skepticism that we have from some of these carriers that have been eliminating commissions. And again, they're doing it from unprofitable positions. So this isn't the official notice from CMS. I'm struggling for whatever reason to find that document on the interwebs. But there are plenty of pictures of that memo that got shot around. But this is an article that is in Insurance News Net, another great source to follow in regards to insurance news. They do a lot of stuff in the Medicare space, health and life space all around, employee benefits, yada, yada. But anyway, basically, we're getting a fat raise, right? And this was just announced, like I said, last week. But it says the Center for Medicare Medicaid Services is adjusting agent compensation for Medicare Advantage upward, a move that one association CEO described as a meaningful step in the right direction. Interesting. The CMS adjustment represents the largest MA increase for broker compensation in years. And it's significant. Like if you didn't see it, it's pretty fat. So if you're an agent in Connecticut, Pennsylvania, or the District of Columbia, your initial Medicare Advantage compensation will increase from $705 per member for new to Medicare up to $781. That is a $74 per app increase. That is a little more than 10%. That's 10.8%. Renewal compensation will go to $353 per member, or from $353, sorry, to $391. So if you're in DC, Pennsylvania, or Connecticut, you're going to get $781 first year and $391 on your renewals. Pretty nice. California, New Jersey, same thing, 10.8% change. You're going to go from $780 to $864 per member. Renewal compensation is up to $432. Another significant increase. Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands also getting a jump. And then if you're like most of us that are in all these other states, as they call us, it's going to go from $626 to $694. That is actually 10.9%, slightly above. That's a $68 bump for us, and $347 on the renewals. So that, when I see them increasing compensation for us, I feel like they know what's coming a little bit better than some of us do. We're going to have another excellent year in the MA world. I still believe there's going to be a lot of disruption from plans consolidating, from plans getting yanked out of the market. Like I told you, my on the UHC stuff, I told you that my bet is that you won't see any of those plans on the market for 2026. So we are going to see some shrinkage, whether it be footprint shrinkage overall in different territories, or we just see a reduced total number of plans that are out there. But through that, we should have more efficiencies if they do it right. And again, we are getting an increase. Part D plans, this one doesn't really excite me unless they start paying Part D commissions again. Great. But Part D plans are going to go up from $109 to $114. Again, that's your new to Medicare, whereas your renewals will go from $55 to $57, right? CMS move reflects a growing recognition of brokers, right? They're actually being nice to us. I know a lot of people felt like in some of the early days of this administration, brokers were somewhat being attacked a little bit. We were like, wait a second, I thought these guys were on our side. And then it sounds like they're saying some things that they're going to try to cut us out of the loop, but that's obviously not true, right? They definitely recognize this. And it says right here, this is Kevin Mayo, the CEO of the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors, NIFA, said that CMS move reflects a growing recognition of the critical role that licensed insurance professionals play in guiding Medicare beneficiaries through a complex and often confusing system. Insurance agents are highly trained professionals who provide personalized, informed guidance to help individuals choose the plans best suited to their needs. Their support doesn't end with enrollment. Agents are on the front lines year-round, helping clients navigate the challenges that arise after a plan is selected. Man, thank you, Kevin Mayo, over at NIFO. Really appreciate those kind words, and I believe that every agent that is watching this certainly agrees with that, right? And many of us wrote letters to our congressmen, our representatives, with exactly statements like that. Like, hey, man, we're not just here to point them in the direction and make a fast dollar. We are there to serve those beneficiaries and make sure that they are getting the right type of guidance, both pre and post enrollment. So there's a little more info in here. It just talks about how this raise is coming on the back of United Healthcare's slash to commissions. But all in all, that is good news for us. And I predicted it before. I've been like, it's not that hard of a prediction. Generally, every time that Medicare Advantage or Part C gets an increase in its subsidy from from CMS, from the federal government, we usually get a raise. I wasn't expecting a raise that big. I was thinking it'd probably go from 626 to like 640, 645, but damn, all the way up to almost $700 if you're in all other states, and well over $800 if you're out in the West, out in California. So good news, more money coming our way. It's just going to be that much easier to make a great living in this business when you're getting increases like that. Speaking of increases, Medicare post $11.2 billion operating profit for 2024. Medicare posts $11.2 billion operating profit for 2024. Wow. Unfortunately, they suck at spending money, and that's a little bit more about what this is about. Strong payroll tax gains and federal government contribution increases helped Medicare turn in strong results for 2024. It says the federal health insurance program is reporting $11.2 billion in net change in assets or operating profits on $1.1 trillion in revenue, up from an operating loss of $12.4 billion on $1 trillion in revenue last year. Whew. Let's look at that a little closer. I am not going to go through everything in here. What I want to get down to is, right back down here where it actually lists. Here we go. So here's what they're talking about, right? Number one, payroll tax revenue is up 8%. More people working, more people making money. Payroll tax revenue is up, right? Premium revenue also up, only up 2%, right? So that increase in Part B premium, right? Increase in IRMA, maybe increase in maybe Part A premiums for people that are buying Part A. So they got a little more, they got a 2% bump there. Assets are up 6.2%. I don't know what is considered an asset in the Medicare world, at least in regards to the CMS program. So if anybody has a little sharper understanding of what they mean by assets, like what is Medicare owning, what is Medicare buying, that is considered an asset, but nonetheless, it's up 6.2%. Their interest earnings, I assume on those assets of things they're buying, is up 26%. Whoever's investing that money is doing a pretty good job with it. I wish I could get a 26% return on my investments. Administrative expenses are $6.2 billion. Whew, that is a lot. That is up 10%, right? And again, that's 2024. Right? This is before Doge came in and started slashing people, firing people, telling them to go home. So administrative expenses actually blew up 10% to $6.2 billion from 5.6 last year. So total revenue was $451 billion. It's up 8.6%. Total benefits for $416 billion, up 4.7. So the operating results is at $28 billion in net gains, up 135%. From $12.2 billion in net gains, which I believe is the previous year. The Part A fund, actually, and this is where the problem comes in, or a big part of it, the Part A fund has an actuarial deficit equal to 1.28% of the taxable payroll. So they're still kind of spending a little more money than they are getting, which is what's pushing that thought process that, hey, if nothing changes, then the Part A trust fund will dry up somewhere around 2033. Let's look at it a little closer. Part B side of it. Premium revenue, 141 billion, that's up 6.5%. Federal government payments are up 12.8%, right? So this is the federal government making payments toward Part B. It's up 12.8. Interest earnings are actually down on that side, so they're losing some money there. Administrative expenses still high, up 3.7%. I assume that for 2025, we're going to see administrative expenses go down and hopefully, again, profit go back up. So total revenue under Part B is $532 billion, which is actually up 10% there. Total benefits under Part B is $547 billion, up 10%. So operating results is a $20.5 billion loss. That should help you understand why we're seeing so many Medicare supplement increases right now. Why we're seeing carriers take above 20%. Like I saw some 28 and 38% increases recently. I think I've even seen a couple that are just around the 40 and 40+%. There's a big reason why, right? Is that Part B expense. So if original Medicare has $20 billion in losses on Part B payments, that should tell you that there's a massive amount of utilization that is happening in the original Medicare space right now. I still believe that is partial, that is true. I don't think it's the only reason, but I think it's still a big reason. It's all the people that staved off or suspended elective surgeries during the pandemic or the federal emergency. All of that is still compounding and getting caught up. Big part of that right there. Part C plans, government Part A payments. So this is federal government making payments to Medicare Advantage plans under Part A. Is $2.25 billion. It's only up 0.4%. Government Part B payments to Medicare Advantage plans is $302.7 billion, or up 11.2%, right? Moving along, how about the drugs? Federal government contributions, enrollee premiums, and cash from the states fund this program. 55.2 million enrollees in the Part D side of things. Premium revenue is 19.3 billion. It's up almost 4%. Federal contributions are up 19% to $111 billion. State contributions are up almost 14%, $18 billion. Administrative expenses are $500 million, unchanged. Total revenue for Part D is 149.3, up 16. Benefits, 145 billion. So they are getting a net operating gain of 3.1 billion. That is, I don't know that that's necessarily bad news. There's some good news that we're getting more money in. Bad news is they're still spending more than they're earning. And apparently some of their investments are good, some of them not so good. But a little interesting article there regarding operating profit. I've never seen it, honestly, in 21 years. I've actually never seen anybody break it down that way on each individual item and kind of how that operates. But it's good to see that certainly somebody's not only doing it, but making us aware of what's looking like. So, it'll tell you that Medicare is definitely a massive program, but it is running in an operating profit right now for 2024. I suspect it's going to be better for next year, just mainly because they've thinned the administrative costs so much. And then more of what we're about to talk about today will kind of play into that and how they're going to use technology, right, to replace some of those administrative, mundane, redundant tasks. Hopefully improve efficiency, streamline it, reduce cost, right? Pretty simple stuff. Moving along, some bad news, but it won't be bad for long because this is one of those 1-2 punches. New York, you may have heard about this, especially if you're up in New York, right? There's been a big issue going on with city retirees and Medicare Advantage plans. Basically, the city of New York was saying, hey, we're losing a lot of money paying for solid insurance benefits for our retiree folks. Putting them on retiree plans, buying original Medicare for them or Part B, whatever it might be, right? So they were going to just shove them all into a Medicare Advantage plan. And if I remember correctly, if they were, depending on where they lived, it was either going to be a plan that was administered by United Healthcare or a plan that was administered by Emblem Healthcare. And that I will confirm that here in the article here in a second. But if I believe those are the two carriers. But anyway, basically, the city of New York was going to take all of their retirees and auto enroll them into a Medicare Advantage plan. Pretty simple. They may have given them a couple of options, but my understanding is no, they were just going to be zapped right into one of these two plans, depending on where they lived. The retirees revolted and they were like, no, we don't want to do that. Well, New York's highest court ruled against them and said that retired city workers who were trying to prevent Mayor Eric Adams' administration from shifting them off of traditional Medicare with supplemental benefits paid for by the city, right? So they basically have original Medicare plus a Medicare supplement plan, and I assume a Part D plan, and that is being paid for by the city through their retirement package. And they were just going to shove them into Medicare Advantage. And they were like, no, we don't want to do that. But so all of these retirees complained. The Court of Appeals Judge Shirley Troutman wrote in a unanimous decision on Wednesday that retirees opposing the switch did not provide sufficient evidence to support their claim that their health coverage would be diminished under the proposed Medicare Advantage plan. How do you prove something like that? How do you provide evidence that a collective large group of people will have diminished health care from original Medicare plus a supplement to Medicare Advantage? Like, how do you really prove that? I know there's been a bunch of arguments. There's people saying that Medicare Advantage costs more money. Medicare Advantage improves health outcomes. Like, there's conflicts and data on both sides. But like, how do you actually provide really solid evidence to a judge to say, hey, look, we're not going to have the same level of health care if you bounce us over here instead of leaving us where we're at? But yeah, the judge was like, nah, y'all haven't provided sufficient evidence, so you're all getting bounced to Medicare Advantage. Well, in a quick turn of events, just released yesterday, Adams' administration backed off and said, never mind, we're changing course. Mayor Eric Adams announced that he will not move forward with the contentious effort to cut costs by shifting retired city workers to a Medicare Advantage plan, bringing a sudden end. 4 years. This has been going on for 4 years, right? He goes on and he says, we have heard concerns from retirees about these potential changes at numerous older adult town halls and public events, and our administration remains focused on ensuring that New York City remains an affordable place to live. Just 2 days earlier, the State Court of Appeals ruled in City Hall's favor in a lawsuit over the Medicare Advantage transition, handing Adams a rare win in the long legal battle. But Adams said the city found other ways to address healthcare costs. He did not offer specifics, but City Hall announced a plan earlier this month to save $1 billion by designing new healthcare coverage with Emblem Health and United Healthcare for the majority of active city workers. So they still have some plans for them, although they haven't gone into it, but they did say, hey, we're not just going to take away your original Medicare and your supplement and bounce you into Medicare Advantage. We are going to work on something special for you, but we are going to allow you to stay where you're at. So good news. It's always nice to see some good news like that. I don't think it would be fair, just from a fairness aspect, whether there's evidence or not. I don't know that it's fair. Of course, nothing's fair in this world, truthfully, right? To bounce all those people without their permission. Moving along a wee bit more, there's another big change coming for something they are testing out here, and they're going to start it in Florida. So there is a program called Transforming Episode Accountability Model. This was actually created under the previous administration, and the new administration is helping it, shape it, and move it forward. But it says here, a sweeping change to how Florida hospitals treat and bill for major surgeries is set to take effect in January. And experts say it could reshape the patient experience from the operating room to post-surgery rehab. The federal government's new model, TEAM, short for Transforming episode accountability model. I'm going to put this article in there, and then if you click this little link, it'll actually take you to the CMS piece all about the model, how it works. It is a mandatory episode-based alternative payment model in which selected acute care hospitals will coordinate care for people under traditional Medicare undergoing one of the surgical procedures included in the model, right? I'll get to a little more on it, but I'm going to get this in there for you guys too. I just kind of want to show you that, right? So big article there. Let's bounce back to this one where it helps me summarize it. Fairly simple. So this is going to be a mandatory Medicare payment program that will impact 37 hospitals across Florida. That is their test market. They decided to go to Florida to test market it because, well, I think it's the number one Medicare population, and there's plenty of hospitals to test it at. So instead of paying hospitals for each service, in other words, this hospital did this to that patient, let's pay them for that piece. This hospital did that, let's pay them for that piece. This rehab facility did that, let's pay them for that piece. They are going to bundle that entire episode from hospital to ambulatory surgery center to rehab or whatever the case. They're going to bundle that into an episode and pay based on that episode. And it says that hospitals that deliver high quality, efficient care could earn up to 20% in bonus payments. Those with complications, delays, or unnecessary costs might even face financial penalties. This is the blueprint for a new era in healthcare, says the CEO of Rainfall Health, a company that works with hospitals that is preparing for the shift. For the first time, hospitals can build a patient-centered ecosystem where real-time insights drive outcomes. So it's a shift towards accountability. The team model targets 5 high-volume, high-cost surgeries, including joint replacements, spinal fusions, cardiovascular procedures, all which together cost Medicare about $16 billion annually. So these are 5 of the highest volume, highest cost surgeries, currently costing Medicare about $16 billion. These surgeries often involve older adults with complex recovery needs, making post-operative coordination essential. Like just looking like my mom had a knee replacement. Like she definitely had to go spend time in rehab. Like it is a complicated process. For some people, super easy, right? They go in there, they spend one day in the hospital, boom, next day surgery, third day's observation, get moved to skilled nursing. You get some rehab, hopefully learn how to walk on that leg again, you're out. Sometimes it can be more problematic and certainly just depends on the type of surgery. But it says here that this model ensures hospitals stay engaged long after the patient leaves the operating room. So basically, they are going to take an opportunity where they can basically use the entire episode if they can prove in an evidence-based way that the health outcome is improved for that patient properly. Then they're going to bill the whole episode under one bundled payment. Those that do well will get incentivized bonus payments. Those that do poorly, apparently you're also going to face penalties. So they're going to test market in Florida. It starts January 1. And if it goes well, I assume this would be something that we'll see rolling out all around the nation. And then moving on to the main thing that I wanted to chat with you guys about a little bit. Prior authorizations, man. I posted something last week. It was just a blurb that's leading up to this that basically says that by the year 2027, prior authorizations will pretty much all be standardized in an electronic format and able to make real-time instant decisions instead of the current mess that we have for prior authorizations. And I don't want to get in too much about the mess just yet. You guys are all aware of it. You've seen some of the numbers. You know, I mean, even though it's not, how do I say this? It's a problem, right? It's generally exaggerated in the media, right? Like if I remember correctly, I think 2022, there was something just shy of 8% or just shy of 9% of total prior authorizations were denied. But then 80 something percent of those that were appealed were overturned, right? Something to that effect. So it still is a big problem that certainly affects millions of people when you're dealing with a program that insures somewhere right around 68 million people nationwide. So they are working on an initiative with insurers to streamline it. Okay. And this was just again fully announced yesterday in a press conference. So I want to take a little bit and we're going to listen to just the opening. I'm not going to play this whole video for you guys, but I want you to hear a few of the comments made by our two.
How many of you have had a pre-authorization issue in your family? Show of hands. It's about reflective of the national average. 85% of Americans say they've had pre-auth affect them in ways they wish it hadn't. It's the number one complaint, not only from patients, but providers, doctors like myself are continually struggling with this issue. We have spoken frequently about how Health and Human Services and the agency in charge of Medicare, Medicaid, and the insurance plan, CMS, is open for business. We like to have private solutions when they're feasible. And today you're going to hear about one of the biggest ones possible, one that will address this issue of prior authorization.
Open for business, he said. Right? CMS is open for business. That, I think, is a huge telltale that a lot of our original ideas about this administration being very pro-capitalism, being very pro-private insurance, I think those few little words right there sum it up. Moving on.
In 2023, the last data year for which we have strong data, the Medicare Advantage program, which administers care to total Medicare is about 68 million people. Half of that is Medicare Advantage. So it's 32 million people, a lot of folks. Partially or fully denied 3.2 million claims, initial requests for prior authorization. It's a lot of people, not just numbers. Those are individuals who often in the most vulnerable time in their lives needed something done, and it was denied for one reason or another. Each week, on average, a physician handles about 40 of these pre-authorization issues and requests, and spends about 12 hours a week on paperwork in general, often aimed at addressing the prior authorization issue. It frustrates doctors. It sometimes results in care that is significantly delayed. It erodes public trust in the healthcare system. It's something we can't tolerate. This administration and under the leadership of Secretary Kennedy, this agency has not wanted and has been expressing its frustration. And for good reason, because of that, and because of folks who actually maybe entered into the industry because they had the right motivations at heart, we have just concluded a roundtable, one of the most impressive that I've been involved in, with the CEOs who represent about 75% of all covered lives in America. These folks represent the insurance companies that cover 3/4 of the American people, and it covers them across Medicare Advantage, across Medicaid, across commercial insurance, about 260 million people in general, in total, covered by these plans. And there were more people being added while we were in the meeting. That's how much interest there is from industry in dealing with the problem that they don't like to have in their bailiwick either. These executives explain why they are signing this pre-authorization pledge to restore common sense to the process. Now, we've spoken to these folks and others in industry about the desire for them to maybe adopt a different strategy, one that actually is discussed in the Bible when it says the meek shall inherit the earth. And I always grew up thinking meek meant weak, but that's not what meek means. Meek means you have a sharp sword, a sword that could do real damage to people around you, but you decide electively to sheathe that sword and put it away for a while so you can do good. So you can do important things where once in a while we have to get together, even if we're competitors, and agree. And that's what these insurance companies and hospital systems have done. They've agreed to sheathe their swords, to be meek for a while, to come up with a better solution to a problem that plagues us all. And this transition that's not happening, this teaching that's sort of spreading, is beginning to catch fire, in part because this administration has pushed so hard on these issues. We're hearing very innovative ideas. For example, could we allow some physicians to be gold card physicians because they're so good at making the right care for the right patient that maybe they don't have to go through a pre-authorization? There's some systems that don't even do pre-authorizations because they have already evolved into having ways of giving feedback to doctors so they learn when they're ordering tests and medications that aren't the right for a solution to a particular problem so they don't repeat those errors. At its best, that's what pre-authorization sought to do, but that's not what it's doing anymore. So for that reason, the pledge. And some of the highlights are in this chart to my right, so you can at least follow along. But I'll mention that the top three issues that we're focused on. The first is timely access for patients. This is a critical issue because imagine you're in a doctor's office and you've got a bad diagnosis and there's a procedure or a test or a treatment that you think is right for you, and you find out that you can't start that treatment for sometimes weeks, even longer. It's more frustrating than anything else in the process because at least that's something you do control. You don't control much else when you're in a physician's office with that kind of a crisis, and yet it's withheld. And these approvals with this new pledge will be streamlined. It will happen very quickly. Necessary care will be delivered when it's needed in the right way. So you get both quality and you get timing, which goes along with that quality. And you won't get that treatment after all the paperwork clears. You'll just get it because there won't be paperwork. We'll be streamlining it. Patients should not be waiting because bureaucratic hurdles are blocking their critical treatment. Second big issue is to make sure that we are saving the system with efficiency. I bring that up because one of the biggest challenges we have within CMS, which is again Medicare, Medicaid, the exchanges, is that it's an inefficient process by which we do things, by which we give feedback, by which we send bills and collect. The red tape creates massive problems. We want less red tape, and if we do that, we can cut tens of billions of dollars of administrative waste. It's a lot of money that we throw at solutions that we don't work for us because we haven't built a digital infrastructure that's being addressed. With less red tape, that means more resources for patients, which is part of the reason these major companies got together, working together with the Health and Human Services Agency to try to take a shot at the pre-auth process. We'll standardize, we'll harmonize, we'll get folks talking together, and the pre-authorization process, if it's done correctly, for ongoing procedures, for medications and the like, will create a seamless relationship between patients and providers, which is the whole goal in the first place, to allow them to free them to get across the finish line with their treatment plans, but to do it together with the insurance entities, the folks that are responsible for these different plans. And thirdly, transparency. And transparency comes with accountability. If you now know what's going on, you now have the responsibility of dealing with it. We have common data standards. They're going to be adopted, and public dashboards are going to reveal to you and to patients what's going on. So we'll be able to audit if this is really happening, because although we're hopeful, this is hard to do. And folks sometimes change their mind. We don't want that to happen. So we're going to trust but verify by having this transparency and accountability. All the stakeholders, the payers, the providers, the patients are going to see real world performance. And by having that, they'll be able to assess whether this is clearly and consistently accomplished. Now, the pledge is not a mandate. This is not a bill or rule. This is not legislated. This is an opportunity for industry to show itself. Participation is voluntary. But by the fact that 3/4 of the patients in the country are already covered by participants in this pledge, it's a good start. And the response has been overwhelming.
Interesting. It is not a rule, an executive order. It's a pledge, right? So basically, as this article is leading off, you can see here, Health and Human Services promotes insurers' pledge to scale back prior authorizations. So they basically had a giant powwow with the CEOs of, and certainly insurers, but I'm sure a lot of them were people from the American Medical Association, people in the American Hospital Association, yada, yada, that were likely also involved in this roundtable, so to speak. And they want to improve prior authorizations. How are they going to do it? Let's talk about that real quick so you can understand what they're up to. But according to Oz, the roundtable included the CEOs of health insurance companies who cover about 75% of Americans, right? Fairly simple. So this included Cigna, United Healthcare, Aetna. They're all in it. And they said they would all be simplifying the process to reduce the number of healthcare claims subject to prior authorization. Catch that real quick. They are going to reduce the number of healthcare claims subject to prior authorization. So that is one of the tricks up their sleeve, so to speak, is to say, hey, we have this giant list of all of these procedures that require prior authorization. Let's revisit that list. Maybe there's some stuff in there that really doesn't need PA, and maybe there's some stuff that certainly needs PA. So that's one of the items. But here we go. These are the voluntary commitments. So if you go through and you watch that whole video, you'll see testimony from several people, including RFK Jr., and he talks about the primary one, and I really like this one. The primary one that he talks about, I'm going to go through all 6, but the primary one that he talks about is interoperability. And if you've been in the Medicare space for a while, you already know this issue exists because we deal with it. We deal with interoperability issues. Everything is different. Every carrier's process is different. Every carrier's claims process is different. Every carrier's prior authorization process is different. Every carrier's commission platform is different, right? So there is no unified interoperability between those processes. That's a big part of the problem. RFK talks about it really well because they'll say, like, some carriers require prior authorizations communicated by fax. Right? It is 2025, isn't it? Why the hell are they still using a fax machine? So some carriers are requiring the doctor to fax in their PA, and then it sits in some kind of fax queue. God knows how long that takes, depending on how busy that office is that day, for someone to attend to that fax, look at it, go back, pull the data, decide if they want to rubber stamp that PA or not. Other carriers have an electronic platform that's obviously different from the other carrier's electronic platform. So these doctors are struggling, and these hospitals, these providers are struggling with, like, well, I got to do it this way with this group. I got to do it that way with that company. Like, those are, if I'm a physician or a provider, like, those are some of the reasons why I probably don't accept every major insurance carrier, because their process sucks. Their process is a little better, so I can serve my patients better. So that is one of the biggest issues, is that lack of unification or standardization within the process itself, that each carrier is doing it the way they want to do it, the way they think might be best for their bottom line or their patients or their insureds. And let's be honest, they are definitely biased in it. So one of the big things they want to do is improve the interoperability, create a standardized, unified process. But let's just read this paragraph real quick. The voluntary commitments include standardizing the electronic prior authorization process, reducing the number of claims that are subject to prior authorization, right? I said that a second ago. There's this giant list of all these different claims and procedures that all have, that require PA. They're like, let's revisit that list and shrink it. Ensuring the continuity of care when patients change plans, enhancing communications and transparency when it comes to determinations. I want to go back one. Ensuring continuity of care when patients change plans. So I'm guessing here that they're going to create some form of process that says, hey, I'm on Humana right now. I have a procedure coming up. I got prior authorization for it, got it approved. It's covered. But due to some other, maybe I moved county after my surgery, after that procedure. I bounced counties and I have to lose that plan. Now, when I go over to the new plan, do I have to go back through that whole PA authorization bullshit again? Or is there going to be a continuity of care? That's what I'm believing they're talking about there, which sounds outstanding, right? I shouldn't have to go back through the process if it's already been approved once. Enhancing communication and transparency when it comes to determinations. Increasing the numbers of real-time responses and ensuring a medical review anytime they have denied requests. So I feel like those are 6 pretty solid commitments. I think a big part of the problem, I think the top 2 ones are probably the biggest issues, right? Because if you can standardize the electronic process to submit prior authorizations and every carrier is doing it the same way, then that's going to increase doctors' confidence and ability to submit prior authorizations, because it doesn't matter if they're submitting it for Humana, Aetna, United Healthcare, Cigna, whoever it is, the process is the same. So it makes it simple for them, right? And if you fix that interoperability and you reduce the total number of claims that are available for prior authorization down to a much smaller list. And when they talked about it in the video, when they talked about shrinking that number, they talked specifically about targeting the prior authors, or targeting the claims that are most often abused. Like, what's the set of claims that get the most abuse on them? Let's make sure that we're keeping PA on those so we can keep them in check. But a lot of these other things, man, like, do we really need PA on some of this stuff? So I think if they can fix the process, standardize it, number two, reduce just the total number of PAs by reducing the claims, that's going to be a big part of the issue. That should solve a lot. Because that standardization, if we can get it all solid where everything is the same, that's where they're going to be able to create electronic efficiencies so that now when that PA gets submitted, we get immediate decision. Oh, yeah, that one's approved. Oh, yeah, that one's approved. No problem. That one's denied. Here's why. Here's how you appeal it. Like, if they can get that process super tight and then reduce the total number of claims that need PA, that should be a big issue, right? Before they even get to the other ones in regards to enhancing communications, transparency, and then medical review. So pretty good stuff, man. I am excited about that. Now, they said, like, this is rolling out January, but they said this will take until January of 2027. Like, that's their target date. And again, as Dr. Ross said, like, this is a pledge. This isn't a executive order, a mandate, or a law. This is the industry coming together to say, hey, this is something we need to fix. We want to fix it. Here's how we're going to do it. And we pledge to you, Mr. Medicare beneficiary that's in a Medicare Advantage plan, we pledge that by the year 2027, we will have this fixed. We'll have prior authorization standardized. We'll have them unified. We'll reduce the total number of claims that are rejected and denied through PA, right? And we'll just make an overall simple process, and we'll be able to do it in real time for you. So that's CARE. So cross your fingers on that one. Let's hope that runs through. But like, all of, like, as much bad news as we get in this industry, that's a lot of times not really bad news. It's just stuff that stings, stuff that gets creates some uncertainty. That's a boatload of good news, in my opinion, for you guys. That should absolutely build your confidence in this business to understand that you should very much be bullish about the Medicare space. I mean, as a matter of fact, I would say the last two episodes of Tuesday Training have all added up to the fact that you are in the right industry. You're in the right vehicle. And it's not going anywhere. Get in the car and drive it. Go build your business and have some fun. I hope you guys are having a great day out there. Big shout out to all my friends out in Salt Lake City hanging out at the seven-figure Medicare Agent Summit. I hope y'all are having a good time. I'm sure Christian is slaying it out there with all of his friends. So catch you guys next time, and that is Tuesday Training. We'll see you next week.